Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rest is Lean podcast. This is series 2, episode 4. And as always, I'm joined by Alan Lothian. Say hi, Al.
Hi, Al.
And Russell Watkins, who's down there. Are you awake, Russell?
Good morning to all of our viewers, listeners across the world. Morning, afternoon, or evening.
Fantastic. He's covered all the bases there. And I'm John D. And together we are loosely called lean professionals, in that that's what we do for a living. We like to ramble on the topics related to lean, continuous improvement, OPEX, the philosophy behind how this stuff works and doesn't work for our entertainment, and sometimes you guys listening. If you've got questions for us, we'd love to hear about them. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you. And just drop them in the comments below and we will get back to you 100%. If you're using a Spotify or other podcast format, then you can contact us on our email address. And let's try Russell today. Do you know what our email address is, Russell? We always struggle with it. It's brilliant.
I can make one up. All this stuff is gold, honestly.com.
Right. No. Over to Alan for the actual address.
The actual email address is therestislean@gmail.com.
So, right, we're going to get straight into this thing. Just start off with what we've been up to. So, me, very easy. What we've been up to over the last couple of weeks is I've mainly been on holiday.
Super.
So I've been driving around in my camper van, enjoying Norfolk. Russ, what have you been up to, mate?
A real mix. A couple of standout points. Firstly, I've been recovering from the trolling I received the episode I missed last time. But I'm coming to terms with it. And secondly, amongst other things, I went to Bentley to walk around with their manufacturing strategy fella who I know, and I picked up this.
What's he got?
Well,
Why haven't I got one?
For the benefit of listeners, it is a shaped piece of metal that is used on benches, on assembly benches. Now, I spotted these all over the show with bits of floor tape. Hang on, John. Hang on, don't be too
I
excited.
think I know what it is, Russell. I want it.
All right. Well, I'll describe it for the listeners. So it's a bit of metal, four-sided with curved edges, with a radius, and it's generally has tape around it for a handle, and operators use it, and it has an actual part number on it because it's such an important little jig tool that it's got a part number. Now,
so
John,
why have you brought it home then, Russ?
You are?
So why have you brought it home? Is there
Because
some guy on the line who hasn't got one now?
No. Luckily, I said to my guide, I like that. If you got a spare one, anyway, he got a couple of people ferreting around in a drawer and said, "Here you go, Russ.
This one's broken."
It's a beautiful thing because I appreciate craftsmanship.
Yes.
Now, John, what do you think it's used for?
I'm thinking it might be a panel gap thickness and a radius guide for edges, trim, stuff like that. Am I on the right track?
Second guess, yes. Close. First guess, no. It isn't a go no gauge on consistent panel thickness, but what it is used to, and I think he called it teddy bear ears. They have a thing where you know everything in Bentley is handmade and rolled on the thighs of beautiful people. Well, this is used when they stretch material, leather, etc. over surfaces. Then quite often they get something called teddy bear ears where it sticks out. Yes. And they use this to smooth it down.
Oh,
I love any little knack, gadget, concocts we talked about previously that helps humans to show their deep skill. Anyway, so I picked up that.
So it's like a leather worker's spatula.
That's exactly what it is, John.
Wow. Fantastic. Alan, top that.
I don't think I can, actually. I mean, yeah, we've done it in the wrong order, so we should have saved the best till last. No, I've been with just two of my clients, one based over in Redditch, one over in Gloucester. So I've been keeping myself local, and they're going, I have to say, incredibly well, even with me interfering. So great.
Good work.
Okay. Well, the broad topic behind today's episode is sustainability, let's call it. I don't so much mean the green version of the term, which is popular at the moment. I mean, making things stick. And we're engaged in trying to make change in companies all the time, whether it be improving quality, productivity, working environments, safety, all those sorts of good things. And I think all of us will probably agree, if asked, it's quite easy to do, but it's much harder to make it stick. So I'd like to offer up a statement to you guys for discussion and derision. And that is, I think that one of the biggest barriers to sustainability is the visibility or perception of management support for lean, continuous improvement, change, etc. So to give you a little bit of guidance on where my head is on that, I think there's a lot of companies that genuinely want change. Often they've hired one of us, so they put their money where their mouth is. They've engaged with us. They've engaged with us to ask for change and ask for improvement, and put money into it and time into it and resources into it. But when you ask around on the shop floor, you get a lot of, they'll not support that. They'll not follow up on that. They'll not pay for that. Oh, it's the flavor of the month. You get a lot of that. So there's a perception that the management team are maybe not fully supportive of change and improvement. And sometimes it's true, but very often it's not true. What's wrong in the company, in my opinion, is the visibility of that support. And I don't think companies make enough effort to make their support visible to the right people in the right places.
Yeah.
What's your view on that, guys? Am I on the right track, wrong track?
I think you're spot on, John. And I think visibility comes in two major flavors. One is visibility as in visuals, visual management, and another one is visibility as in being there.
Yeah.
Being there on the Gemba, wherever the Gemba is. If you're a software company, it's where coders are coding, or where people are doing whatever. But in a factory, it's on the shop floor. I think there are three things. First, you've got to be there and be visible. Then secondly, you've got to do no harm. And then thirdly, you've got to do something useful.
I like the do no harm bit.
That's probably a useful cadence.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, when I used to work at JCB, my gaffer then was a group manufacturing director, and we used to go around the plants a lot. There were 12 or 13 plants that we were looking after, and I was trying to do the lean transformation group wise. And I used to say to him, whenever you go into a plant, stop doing what you're currently doing. And that's, you go straight in through the front door and you go to the offices and you do what you got to do because you're a busy man. And I said, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I believe it was right at the time. I said, the first thing you do is go to the shop floor and you walk it, and you walk it for 10 minutes and you take a look. And you don't even need to stop and talk to anybody at the moment. I just want you to get a cadence of being seen. And I don't care if you're thinking about your shopping. I just want you to be seen. Say hello to a few people and just get the cycles of activity going. Because what we tend to forget as managers and senior teams is that we expect operators to knock out over 100,000 parts a year without a problem and to stick to a cycle of activity. And we can't be asked to go and walk the shop once a day or once a week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I tend to agree. And the other side of visibility, the actual visuals, I'm working with a company where we've put their senior team confirmation cycles, standard work confirmation, 5S audit, and area patrol confirmation. We've put it on a board indicating when the senior team have and haven't done theirs to make sure that they have visibility of their own failure.
Yeah. Cool.
That's about all I've got to say about that. What do you reckon, Al?
I would just ditto what you just said there initially, Russ. I had that exactly the same setup when I was at Eton. I've always had the mindset of walking the floor, speaking to the people, trying to just building relationships, not necessarily going on the shop floor to think that you know everything. It's actually to go down there and learn about what's really going on, as opposed to being stuck in meetings and people telling you things. All right. So yeah, the standard work thing I really like. We used to have that in the center of the factory as well, and very good where you can hold people to account when it hasn't been done, and having the culture whereby you actually don't mind the guys and girls on the shop floor calling you out
Yeah.
when you haven't done
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have a feeling they can do that without repercussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And calling you out for when you're walking on your phone or cutting across gangways and that.
Absolutely right.
Yes.
Absolutely. And you recognize that positively because, coming back to some of the earlier discussions that we've had, that just shows when you talk about the culture of safety, for example, all right, they're highlighting it because it's a safety concern or it could be a quality concern. They've learned, they understand, they're not just blinkered by what they see in front of them, they're aware of their surroundings, which
Yeah.
is a good thing. We have said in previous episodes about when you're going, if a business is going to embark on that, is why they want to do it in the first place. What's the need? And from a leader's perspective, it's being able to articulate effectively and clearly why the change needs to take place.
Yeah.
Because I think what happens, I look at it where when you're going on any sort of change initiative, of which a lean transformation project is one of them, you've got what I call the technical side, and I would call into that, deals going into tools and techniques, train, do the activities and such like. But there's the what I call the personal side as well. So that's the winning of the hearts and minds. Yeah. So what you've just put across there, Russ and John, is a really, really good start where a leader can set the right example of what they're looking for day to day, right? Being down there, they see it as an integral part of their day to day to make the business function and hum as effectively as it possibly can. They appreciate from a lean perspective that you're only going to really find out what's really going on by getting down there and looking at it.
Yeah.
Okay. And also having a sense of humility that it's okay not to have all the answers and to ask.
Yeah.
I think some
that's
people go into
beautiful.
organizations and they think, I've got into a managed position. They think I need to know it all. And actually, you don't.
Yeah.
They'll respect you a lot more if you're open about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've hit another rich vein there, Al, in terms of the humility bit and it's okay not to know the answer, even if you're the top guy. In fact, it's more likely you don't know the answer if you're the top guy because there's too many hats you wear to have the degree of knowledge in any area. And yeah, the higher up the ladder you are, the more you get imposter syndrome and you fret about these things. So I think, yeah, it's spinning back round on the topic again. This visibility of support very much comes down to, as Russ says, get down there, be seen, because that takes away one of those barriers where people can say they'll never do that.
Yeah.
When they know your name and they know that you generally go, "How you doing, Bert?" And their colleague says, "I'll never do that." That comes a lot harder when he goes, "Oh, I think Eric wanted to ask you something." What? Yeah, you don't think we'll be able to do this new thing we're up to? Oh, why is that, Eric? That sort of problem starts to go away just because you're not a faceless person or a faceless department.
Yeah.
You've got a name, you visit now and again. And, I might not like what Russell says in his latest book. But if I meet him now and again, the stuff that I don't like about his book and I talk about openly, I better have a reason for it because I'd expect Russell to say, "Hey, what do you mean page 7's junk?"
Yeah.
I really like page 7. It's harder to just throw stones.
It is, well, because you made a connection. But John, I challenge you on one thing, and that's I challenge myself on when I said it's enough just to be there initially. I believe that it's necessary, but it's insufficient.
Correct.
Because it's not a spectator sport over the long term.
That's just where you start, maybe.
Just where you start. And so that's my challenge to myself. And so with Gemba walks with managers, it's always right. You may ask for an action, but you take an action. It's
Yes.
one for them and one for you. So you take an action and do something useful because it's not a spectator sport. I would the only thing I challenge you on, John, is when you say go on the shop now and again. I think you have to establish a cadence so that because I see too many managers who go down once a month, or it might be after 5 weeks, after 3 weeks, after 6 weeks, and just dive bomb the shop floor. And I think that comes into the do no harm, do harm bit. By the way, a top tip for anybody listening who's a manager and they are a bit nervous about asking a question, a very strong response is always, "What do you think?" And then leave a pregnant pause, and that gives you three significant benefits. One is, first of all, you might learn something. Secondly, you give yourself time to think.
Yeah.
And thirdly, from their answer, you get to get a strong feel of where their thinking is at and their degree of and their lean maturity in their thinking. It's a win-win. So, yeah.
Yeah. Can I just jump on that as well, Russ? And you say the cadence, I think, is right, but also you don't. I suppose it's finding the fine line. You don't make it too rigid,
No.
because then people know when you're coming.
Yeah.
And it's not as if to say that you want to catch people out, but also if you've got it fixed all the time, you'll only generally see the same people. So, for example, what I used to do with myself and my leadership team is I would say, right, I would make sure as long as I did it in the day, it's one of my essential things to do. But I would do it as long as it's a daily cadence, but it's not fixed or time at a particular time in the day. All right.
I tend to agree, Al, but I don't think it matters because we have 4 seasons, yeah. Summer, spring, autumn, and winter's the other one, isn't it? So, summer, spring, autumn, winter. But actually, we haven't. We have micro seasons. I read a book a couple of years ago about the 72 Japanese seasons where there are micro changes that you can spot as the year goes on, week to week. The great thing about whether it is a rigid time or not, and I tend to think Al, I tend to agree, it is nice to vary it within the cadence, but I don't think it matters because the more you go out, the more you see the things that don't change. And when you get used to the things that don't change, your sensitivity, your shop floor sensitivity for what is changing gets stronger because you're establishing the pattern. So you start to see more clearly. It is the cadence and the pattern that matters because you see clearly through habit.
Yeah.
I think.
That's a good point.
I definitely, you are right, Russell, in that now and again is the wrong expression. But I think my reflecting back on that, what do I mean now and again? I think I'm anti making it an event. You know, it's 2 o'clock, it's Tuesday. John's going to come round, stand by your beds, boys. Put that spanner away, hide the bad bit. Event based, it can be useful initially. You know, we talk about a kata, a pattern, to get people used to the idea that the management come on the shop floor, to get management used to the idea that they go on the shop floor. That's all good. But if it is very regimented, I think it can lose its impact. And, I'll move over to Alan's opinion on that, that you want to hopefully get to a point of maturity where if you ask people on the shop floor, do the management come down and talk to you? They go, yeah. Oh, when do they come? Oh, most days. You will see Bert and Ernie come round. Sometimes it's just Bert. That's a level of maturity that you don't have to make it 2 o'clock to prove a point. It is, I want to go to the shop floor. And it's actually becomes more sincere. And again, it's the optics of it become important. But we are talking a level on in maturity there.
Well, we are, but we are. And Al, you're the one who's lived this life closer than me and John. Me and John have been in tons of manufacturers and been doing this for years, but you're the man who operated at a senior level as an ops director
and plant manager
for a number of years. Can you tell us a bit more about how you would do it with your team?
Yeah, and I'll tell you absolutely, but I'll also tell you what one of the failures I had as well is I learned it reasonably quickly. Is you know me, guys. I mean, I'll talk the high legs off a donkey. I'll talk to a lot of people.
Get on with it, Al.
Exactly. But once you set the semi routine, as I would call it, you're building the relationships. But also when you walk in the floor, people know, and they're opening up to you, and they're asking you for your thoughts, as you say, or they're asking for solutions. Okay. Um, the the gap I fell through was I felt because they were asking, I had to give them the answers initially, right? And that actually damaged in the short term the relationships I had with my direct reports, because effectively from their perspective I've basically completely dismantled the chains of the organizational structure. Okay, whereas what I should have been saying is that's a really good idea, maybe have a chat with Rod, Jane and Freddie and see what they think and take it from there. I've made a mental note to follow up at another point in time with my direct line. All right. But I wasn't doing that initially. So I think that was a really, really good point. Be mindful of your chains of command, the organizational structure. So you build the relationships, but what you don't want to do is take away the ownership from their direct line manager.
What, Al, why was that? Why was that an issue with the chain of command? Is it because you were treading on their corner and doing a bit of their job, or were you?
So, for example, there might be they may have addressed something to me which actually has already been addressed with their immediate line manager, and I may have offered something different to what the line manager's working on, and I'm blissfully unaware at that stage that the line manager's already doing something towards it. So they feel as if I'm treading on their toes. Okay. So the beauty of it was actually finding out through 360 feedback. So PDRs, performance development reviews with the line with the team. And I mean, that's a topic for another day. I mean, I was absolutely petrified of those initially, but actually they're the most welcoming 30 or 45 minutes you can have with your line with your team members to really understand what works well for them and what doesn't work so well. All right. But yeah, I mean that was a learning point. I totally agree with you in terms of what you said before, Russ, about the visibility. So having a simple T card structure with all the key activities that need to be done on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis we had through the course of a given time period. They start off red. When you've done it, it goes green. If there's a need for an action, there was like a little magnetic strip where you can write the ticket on it or write the issue. Okay, and then we would review that on a regular basis as a team.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there are it's a bit like a binary gate system in that just being there is necessary but insufficient. Flipping the T card and doing the activity is necessary but insufficient. You want the activity to be value added. So, for example, when I do a senior team Gemba walk thing, it'll always include a form of standardized work confirmation. It'll always include a patrol, but a themed patrol based on what other business issues or what has that area flagged up as their weakness. The other one is I asked them to do a Kaizen walk. Now, that is where they go to a Kaizen plan sheet or a problem and countermeasure, and they're either looking, is it being filled in well? Is this active or is it a museum piece?
Yeah.
But critically, I think one of the most important things that a leader can do is go to a specific Kaizen that's been closed and say, can you show me this one? Because then they can see how robust the countermeasure have been. Is it being sustained? Were they supported? Do I need to unblock other functions who aren't doing well? Because flipping a T card is easy. Doing something useful is not easy always. Yeah.
I think you linked at the beginning of this conversation, Al, to policy deployment, basically, Ocean Ganry. You know, what are we trying to do as a business? What are the many projects, activities, goals that we've got in various places and how they work together? Because that helps everybody explain why certain things are important, why certain things are going to be less important just at the moment. And again, companies can have that, but they're not so good at making it visible or bringing it to life. So you've got the basic act of telling everybody about it. Some companies fall even at that hurdle. Then you've got displaying it, and I'm using it in inverted commas because I say display, people think notice boards. It can be, part of email messaging, phrases and key topics and graphics from your strategy can be part of every email. or every meeting can start with a little reminder of a mnemonic or something. It can be on screens. There's so many ways you can share the message, put it on people's key cards. They change every 12 months.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. How do you make it visible to people? But then you might say make it audible to people, but it's the same topic. Are the management team sharing the phrases, the messages, the goals, whenever they're out on the shop floor, saying, "Ooh, I notice you've done a really good thing with storage of oils over there." And the reason I'm commenting it, of course, is our strategy to be better with the environmental stuff. It's very good. Have you got any ideas where we could do elsewhere? Or why aren't we doing it on the other side of the factory?
Yeah.
That is all part of visible support.
John, that's a great suite of ideas to visualize it, and some of the thinking behind it. Shall we wrap up with Japanese word of the week now? The Japanese word of the week, a number of you all know this, is a Japanese phrase, mondai nai. You two will definitely know this. I think mondai nai means no problem. It actually means no problem is problem. If you and it's related to the Taiichi Ono circle, where he'd make managers particularly stand in a chalk circle until they could see stuff.
Yeah.
If you're on the shop and you can't see any problems, it doesn't mean there aren't any problems. It means you just ain't looking hard enough. So spend longer, get used to what you're seeing, and look deeper. It's a granularity thing. So no problem is problem. If you're not seeing problems in your factory, it ain't because they aren't there. It's because your eyes aren't sharp enough yet.
That is a really, really useful, and I don't think people do know that commonly. I'm familiar with the phrase. It's not a phrase I use or say myself. But yeah, it's really good, and spins me back to my Japanese master. Whenever he would see a pie chart that was all green, he'd go, they're screwed. What do you mean? He says they've got no quality issues.
They have just they ran out of red pen.
What's the odds that that's right?
Yeah.
Followed by they haven't improved their quality standard to the point where there's red on there.
Yeah.
So much work to do. Thank you.
Off you go, John. That's what they say. And then followed by off you go, John.
Yeah, go sort that. Make it up.
Go deal with it, John.
Thank you. Righto, guys. So that wraps up this particular episode of our podcast, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Please get involved. We'd love to see your comments and your questions. Comments below if it's on YouTube. Questions to our email address, which is Al, because he knows it.
The rest is lean at gmail.com.
Thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you on our next podcast in a couple of weeks' time. See you, folks.
See ya.
Cheers, guys. See you soon.